Yeah, this isn't a good time, man. What the fuck? Oh, hey, Mr. Soros. You want me to do what now? Fucking record, man. It's a fucking Tuesday. I don't fucking record. Yes, sir. I'll be right in. Fucking asshole. Warning: this episode contains high levels of wonkiness, specifically about the topic of American politics, which is the dumbest thing. Let me just wipe this desk off here. Shit, that's fucking where. Oh, there's the Todoroki doll. Aren't you a cute petite? That's the last time I fucking record in the goddamn garage. Howdy, y'all, and welcome back to the Cool Zone. I'm still Thomas, and this is still that show I'm supposed to be doing. You may notice some different sounds today. I'm outside for the first time in a long while, recording this in my parents' garage. You know, I would record it elsewhere, but I am a millennial, owning nothing to myself and never working, and so this is my spot. Um, like I said in the intro, there, I think today we're going to be looking at some American politics, if that's all right with y'all. So just sit back and let's dig in. We're going to zoom around between a few local level races, and by local I mean Senate primaries. And then we're going to go into the bigger picture and dig into my thoughts on the American electoral process as a whole and the race for president and what I think is going to happen there. So, let's start down south in Kentucky, which still manages to be further fucking north than me. But that grand state, which holds the Trillbillies, is going to be hosting a primary here shortly, which will decide between Charles Booker, a black Kentucky state rep, who's received endorsements from everyone from Sanders to AOC, who will be competing against, let me get this right, Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath, who, if I recall correctly, is a carpetbagger and looks like your fucking 12-year-old nephew who plays Fortnite. She is ahead. She has the actual licensure to run of the National Democratic Party, and is a Trump Democrat. You know, she said she'd work with Trump well because she's a veteran, um, and has raised over $40 million, most of it just given to her by the National Party. Charles Booker, on the other hand, a young, very fine-looking black man up in Kentucky, is running against her, and he has only recently beaten $1 million in his war chest. He's 35. He's been a state rep for a long while, and now he's been participating in protests all over the state, especially in his hometown of Louisville. Um, Now, one issue with Kentucky and with this race that we're going to see is there's 120 counties in Kentucky. That's a lot for you international people for a state. And Kentucky is one of the larger states, even in terms of it would take you probably longer to drive from the westernmost portion of the state to the easternmost than it would for me to drive up there. And it'd take me about 4 or 5 hours to get up to Kentucky if I started driving right now. Um, and so most of the counties only got one polling place each, meaning that a lot of people are going to worry about voter suppression, and being from the South, I can just tell you, it ain't going to end well. Ain't a damn soul going to be able to show up. We just got to hope more black folks show up than do goddamn petty bourgeois, rich white Kentuckians, which, I mean, they don't get off their asses for anything anymore, so you might be lucky there. Um, It was a 10-way Democratic primary, but Booker surged later on when Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency room worker from Louisville, was killed by police who were serving a quote no knock warrant at her apartment in March. Um, and Booker, of course, has always been speaking about issues of racism and police violence. So, he said, quote, if you're from certain parts of this state, if you look like I do, for instance, you can be seen as a deadly weapon before a human being. And so we've got to address that. Um, Now he's up to 2.4 million since the beginning of June, which is almost 3 times the amount he had raised during the entire race up to that point. And he's buoyed by progressives and liberals who think McGrath is too moderate. Of course, McGrath also wanted to confirm Brett Kavanaugh, which I don't really give a shit about the whole Brett Kavanaugh thing. Yeah, he probably did it, but I mean, remember Anita Hill? Anybody? They don't fucking care at the Supreme Court level. They're all dipshits anyway. Um, and so McGrath said, of course, as part of being a pro-Trump Democrat, she said, quote, the things that Kentuckians voted for Trump for are not being done. He's not able to get it done because of Senator McConnell. And of course, she's saying that it's very important to her that she support the president that her state selected because she's, a fucking idiot. And we know she's a fucking idiot because she's run for the same seat multiple times and just built up her war chest over the years because, well, she's a fucking idiot. Um, Probably if we see less voter interference, we'll definitely see Booker win the primary. Now, granted, I don't think either of them are going to beat Mitch. Um, Certainly not McGrath. Booker's got a much better shot than McGrath if he can pull an Obama and really play the black card hard. But well, depends. That's awful rare anymore. Um, and it's really in the South, right? We have this issue wherein, well, it's not even that big of an issue if you think about it. It's people are following class lines over racial lines, which is what I mean. That's what I want, right? I want you to follow your class lines. The issue is, however, that we have a lot of older blacks who are quote unquote conservative, who are, petty bouge. They're maybe landlords. They own some property. They've inherited a lot of property. They've worked in pretty decent jobs for their areas all their lives. They maybe have retired. And they vote in such a way that they're just going to support whoever the DNC tells them to. A lot of these people, the only community they have is at their rather conservative church that they've either built or seen grow or now are seeing shrink. And see largely a lot of progressive institutions like LGBTQ rights, etc., rights for other brown people, the inclusion of brown people with black people, etc. They see a lot of these as affronts to them and to their culture, probably because they're, petty bouge assholes. And so what we're seeing is this older generation of blacks are largely separating from the younger generation who would much rather support a harder working class black over someone who's rich, someone who came from money, someone who some establishment told them to vote for. We're also seeing, of course, that now in a lot of areas, young black and brown folks are seeing that establishment, quote unquote, that was better than Republicans supposedly for their parents' generations and their grandparents' generations, just don't care about them anymore. They're being left behind, especially in rural areas. And so I predict that they will split and go vote for McGrath because that's what they've been told to do. And we'll see a lot of young folks from all, backgrounds going for Booker there. Now, is that enough to put Booker over the edge? I do not know. And it'll also matter if the Dems are willing to let a black man do to Kentucky more or less what AOC did to New York. Because at the end of the day, while it's a different level of seat and he clearly would still have to compete with Mitch, we could see that Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi decide that they don't want to put a voice to anyone who was not DNC selected, when even up against for an opponent like Mitch, when he will require every dime that they can give him to win. So we'll see. Now I will say, a lot of the Kentuckians don't actually like Mitch no more for the same reason all the people in my home state don't really like Lindsey no more. Which is to say they don't do enough for the people that they represent, although they are rather quite representative of the areas that that they're in, or at least of the voting blocks, right, of the voting population of the area that they're in. So we'll see there. Of course, best of luck to Mr. Booker. Um, he is damn handsome. Just damn handsome. So, the other race to be watching here soonish is the race between Jamal Bowman and Old Man Engel. Now, if you're unaware of Elliot Engel, he is a United States representative. He is 73 fucking years old. He's balding rapidly, and he has what looks like a goddamn caterpillar living on the top of his lip. Um, he's been serving as the 16th congressional goodness gracious, as the United States representative for New York's 16th congressional since 2013. And he has been serving in Congress 16 terms now, having served since 1989. Now, Engel here is rather quite famous currently for having been the earliest person to this year's State of the Union address, because he, much like Amy McGrath, only knows how to kiss rings, and so he decided he was going to be very, very early to the latest State of the Union so that he could get an aisle seat and shake Donald Trump's hand, which was very important to him because, quote, it doesn't matter who the president is, you have to respect that office. Now, if you're respecting a fucking office, then you're an idiot. And if you think that the goddamn office matters more than the person sitting in it, you're doubly a fucking idiot. But hey, you do you, I guess. Fucking crazy people. Now, he is in a district directly adjacent to where AOC recently won, and is the last Democratic white representative of a majority black district. Elliot Engel is also quite famous for trying to get into the Congressional Black Caucus despite being a white man. Don't ask me why. I don't even think he knows why the fuck he does things. I mean, looking at him, he looks like your senile old principal out of school. Which is funny that I mention your principal, because he is currently running against Jamal Bowman, who is again, quite handsome, stunning figure, who is a congressional candidate running against him, a black man, who is a school principal up in the district. And he wrote a pretty good essay for NBC a while ago, apparently in March, where he discussed being a working class black male educator during Bloomberg's tenure, which was just fucking hell, and seeing the horrors and trauma of how the police department treated people like him. Um, he wrote about Eric Garner and Sean Bell. He wrote about getting arrested following a traffic stop and getting accused of stealing his own damn car. Now, this is in the Bronx, and basically the split is exactly what you anticipate it being. That is to say, AOC and Bernard Sanders, I believe Sunrise Coalition, have coalesced around Mr. Bowman, and Elliot Engel has the support of all the dumbest motherfuckers in history. That is to say, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, the Congressional Black Caucus. He has a huge war chest, of course he does. I'm sure it matches his tiny penis. And basically, we're going to be looking at the same sorts of splits here that we would see in Kentucky, just on a much more localized level. Largely, what we're scared of seeing is that Engel win, which I quite doubt Engel winning at this point. I think polls have come out showing Bowman 10% over Engel, which wouldn't be that surprising to me. Um, and apparently, Engel is serving in the Foreign Affairs Committee. And the House Foreign Affairs Committee is, of course, where Senator, well, Joseph R. Biden made his name. That's where he started all the biggest wars that we blame him on him. That's where he became the largest war criminal to run for president to date, unless Dick Cheney runs anytime soon. Um, Fuck, did Dick Cheney run for president? Oh, fuck me if he did. That'd be rough. We're going to do an episode that will be digging into the life and times of Tiny Dick Cheney, the fucking murderer, sometime soon. Sometime soon. We'll also do a Pride Month episode sometime soon. I can assure you of these two things. If you're wondering why I haven't done a Pride Month episode yet, a lot of it comes down to the fact that, well, it's a fucking rough Pride Month, right? I mean, lynchings are up. Life fucking sucks right now. Things ain't doing good right now. And, I just don't fucking know right now, man. I don't know about all that shit. Oh, yeah. Fucking Congressman Engel is the chairman of the fucking House Foreign Affairs Committee. Yeah, fuck this guy. I hope he loses his goddamn seat. Asshole. What a fucking shitwad. So we're also seeing that CNBC journalist Michelle Caruso Cabrera, who's a moderate backed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, is running against AOC. Now, AOC's gonna win that. There's just no way in fucking hell that she gets beat by a goddamn Gusano fuck. And yeah, that woman is a fucking Gusano. She worked for the fucking CIA. She worked for CNBC. She's fucking shill at best and a spy. She's no good for nothing, and her writing fucking sucks. Um, she's gonna lose to AOC. I hope and pray. I'm pretty sure. Um, we're also seeing, a couple other races, if I remember correctly, on the national level. Most notably of which is actually not the Libertarian Party, which is concluded with a socialist VP and a hardline conservative crazy woman presidential candidate, but actually we're seeing a large national race coming up, which is apparently going to be between Joseph Rapinette Biden, one time damn near no name from fucking Rhode Island, who lost his wife and one of his children in a tragic car accident when he was inaugurated as representative down there, some bullshit like that. And who's just had a real shit life, I guess. I mean, he's ran for president like 5 times, I think, and he plagiarized whole speeches before, which ended a presidential campaign of his. But clearly, Democrats being the dumbest human fucking beings isn't a surprise or anything new. He'll be running against Donald J. Trump. And probably will lose, actually. Somehow, we're looking down the barrel of a party realignment here, actually, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Most notably of which is that we've gone from having a dim suck, which yes sucks, but at least he's something, leading the Democratic pack and being damn near a shoo-in, to a lot of election interference in South Carolina and on that led to this bullshit that fucking Joseph Biden's gonna have a shot in hell, which means that the Democratic Party has chosen to consolidate not around the middle, not around the fucking left, but around the middle right, meaning that we are seeing now probably, he's more moderate than Obama, I suppose, or he's certainly not openly more conservative than Obama, at least 2008 Obama. But he is very much calling for Reaganite austerity. I mean, he's out here saying, no way will he will veto Medicare for fucking all, because that would signal that Obamacare wasn't good enough, signaling that his predecessor, who rigged a fucking election for him, wasn't good enough, signaling that, I mean, shit, that'd be the death of the Democratic Party there. So, this senile old bastard who cannot even remember his own goddamn war crimes anymore will be running against Donald J. Trump, who to date has actually managed to do fewer war crimes despite being president of the United States and a neo fascist. And so, what we're seeing is this odd dichotomy and fight between the Democratic old guard and a new era of more crypto fascist right wingers, led by the likes of Tom Cotton, that other one who lost his eye in a horrible incident with an otaku, um, and the fucking the crazy bitch in that replaced and the psycho bitch who replaced that bitch Perez, who replaced Evo Morales down in Bolivia. And so basically, what we're seeing is a realignment that has brought the evangelical right to coalesce with the evangelical center, and even to a large extent the evangelical left, around Donald Trump, who is an avowed atheist. And this is due, of course, to his clever media persona, and also the fact that, the QAnon cult has largely, repeated calls of coalescing around whatever leader, quote unquote, God has given the people. Claims that Trump is hunting those celebrity pedophiles who are stealing all the kids' adrenochrome. By the way, thank you, Mr. Soros, for that last adrenochrome milkshake. It added years to my fucking life. Real good shit as always. And as they've coalesced, so too have the bankers and the other monetary establishment, because of course Trumpian fiscal policy is Nazbol gang, which of course is the big issue here, right? We're going into an era wherein the American Republican Party is openly national Bolsheviks, right? They're socialism for the selected few. And if you don't believe me on that, then look at the fact that it's the Republicans who time and again defend the fact that as elected officials, they have the best health care in this country. They also have some of the best pay. They also have many of the best benefits. And we could afford to give all of us these great benefits at little to no cost, except cutting some military spending. And they refuse to do that because, of course, it is the nature of the National Bolsheviks, aka Nazis or Nazbols, to create a setting in which their economy is tied to however many wars they can start to exploit foreign labor, etc., foreign material goods and resources, for cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to create nicer things to sell back home, while they also use those same tools of colonization upon their own local populaces that are not the accepted and beloved group, in America's case, the whites. So what we're seeing here is that they are coalescing more and more rapidly around the suburban petty bourgeois white who is himself being assailed from both sides and is shrinking at probably the fastest that we've ever seen a class shrink as the diversities within the system expose themselves more, which is to say that we are beating idpol and identity politics and creating a larger class polarity, which pulls apart the petty bourge and forces the best of the best of the best into the bourgeois and everyone else more and more rapidly into the ranks of the urban, suburban proletariat, which is very endangering for the petty bourge. But this is a natural consequence when we have the baby boomer class and the baby boomer age rank still taking up the majority of high paying positions and not allowing anything for their millennial children, much less their Zoomer and Gen X or Gen Z grandchildren. Meaning that people like me, fucking Zoomers, have no space to expand into the economy. And so we are going into artisanal routes like this dumb as shit fucking podcast deal, where this is how we make money, or we just go to school for fucking ever, because at least then you're doing something. And so as we're doing this and escaping the confines of modern capital, it's spreading the dichotomy further because now there are larger and larger markets that are self feeding and self inundating that are not doing so based on financial prowess or reasoning or anything to do with capital, but in fact just because it's what's pleasing. Because, of course, we've also been raised that the fucking world's gonna flood soon, so there's no point in getting too damn invested in anything. On the flip side, we're seeing the modern Democratic Party try to keep up with what is now National Bolshevism by going into the most harsh and austere neoliberalism that we've seen since Maggie Thatcher fucking croaked. By the way, every time you breathe, you are flexing on Margaret dumb as shit Thatcher and the fact that she no longer can. Remember that. So what we're seeing is this non-existent party dichotomy is actually going to flip shortly. Probably my prediction is the best possible timeline for the dissolution of America is that Biden wins and Trump doesn't consider the election real, which is what'll probably happen. Um, in which case, Trump calls for something like a recount. Let's say only red states respect the recount and do it, which then somehow leads to, say, Trump winning the popular vote, losing the electoral vote. He just chooses not to give up office, and the Democrats have to make a decision very hard and fast and lose there. Um, which would be very good to see as it leads to the balkanization of America. Probably wouldn't be good for a lot of people, but it'd be fucking funny. You know, it'd be fucking hysterical. And at this point in this timeline, we should expect that whatever the funniest fucking eventuality is, it's probably the one that we're gonna get. Um, and so we also are seeing that we're getting quite a bit of feedback, right, from these younger generations who are forced into lower and lower classes, no matter what their party or what their parents' class is, due to lack of capital opportunities, due to lack of jobs, due to lack of housing, due to lack of property to buy and trade, etc., as resources become more and more scarce within the imperial core. And the future of this, of course, and this scarcity of capital is that we see another much deeper contradiction show up, which is probably going to result in, if I was going to guess, 2024 election, we'll see probably another socialist candidate who will lose to someone like a Kanye West, who will bring over the evangelicals to the Democratic Party, cementing the Democratic Party as the party of the minority petty bourgeois and the petty bourgeois white women. And yet, the Republican Party will become openly the party of the bourgeois capitalist class, who will then begin to use their powers to more and more rein in any spreading of capital and begin coalescing their money and power around themselves, which will then be used to serve their own ends in the form of probably the creation of more and more colonial states and more slave and trader states to the American empire, which will then balkanize as regional rivalries and identities become too powerful for the weakened federal system to overcome, which would be pretty fucking funny, I think. Kanye 2024, of course, of course. Now, we could also see someone like a Tom Cotton come out of this if he can figure out how to control a media narrative while also being more or less openly fascist that could, after the austerity state that the Democrats are about to create, if they win, take a lot of power back for the white petty bourgeois establishment. Um, but we'll have to see, of course. We'll have to see, just as everything else on the end of politics. Now, this episode's right around 30 minutes here, so I'm gonna stop fucking rambling and end it here. See y'all next time. Thanks for visiting the Cool Zone.